What's zapping, everybody? Zerfel Rose here, bringing you some dad jokes and Pokemon Go Badly content. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about this team that I ran with a Alolan Graveler on the lead rather than playing it in the back, because everybody's playing it in the back. Does much better in the lead, in my opinion. Catches those Galvantulas off guard and forces them to swap out, and then you RPS them from there anyway. So we've got here Hisuian Electrode in the back, as just about every team in the Electric Cup is doing, and Lantern as well. So this is just another way to shuffle the team around and try and get some gains, but anyway, let's get into these battles here, because this is actually a really strong team. Some of the first battles that I played in the Electric Cup as well, and I picked the Alolan Graveler because I saw literally every single person playing Galvantula lead. So my person swaps into a rock, I'm looking for it, and I immediately switch in my Lantern. And the reason why I switch in Lantern here is because Electrode actually loses 2 shield matchups to the Alolan rocks. So I would rather be in a matchup where I know I'm going to win for sure, and I know shield because I know it's just a rock slide based on the counts. So my opponent brings in their Lantern here, which is fine. It just means that my Graveler maintains alignment on the Galvantula, and when my Lantern goes down, the Electrode's going to have alignment on the Lantern. So what this essentially means is that, like, I put Lantern in as the counter swap to the rock, because once Lantern farms down a Alolan rock user, like, completely, it just, the energy that you get from all that farming from the surfs, it can even take out most of an Electrode on its own. So very powerful when you can get that situation, but in this particular case, my opponent leads an Alolan rock into mine, and they bring in a Minun, which at first I was kind of like, what the heck? And then I remembered it has Grass Knot Discharge, so I can realize I can safely bring in my Electrode and basically wall this thing. I definitely want to bring in my Lantern because I don't want to tank said Grass Knot. So just need to make sure that the Graveler is kept alive, and I have 2 really solid answers to the Golem in the back. So if I can get switch advantage here, which I will be able to thanks to my Electrode resisting the entire moveset of this thing, I'll be able to keep my Lantern on the Golem and Graveler on whatever's in the back. Now, unfortunately, I overfarm here a bit too much. Don't know the counts for Minun's moves, even though I probably could figure it out if I remembered half the counts in my head. But my opponent's going to bring an Electrode, and so basically with a shield disadvantage, this is really tough. So I'm going to try and do as much damage as I possibly can with this Electrode, and then my opponent brings in the Golem, and I'm going to go for the Energy Ball. I don't know what they were thinking, man. They shielded up, and now I'm going to be able to safely bring in my Lantern here to farm down the Alolan Golem. And because they're running Volt Switch, I know that I can safely farm this down. I'm not taking very much fast move damage here, so this is an easy farm down. The opponent will be able to get to a Rock Blast, and I think at this point I just let it go, and I come in with my my Graveler and just start loading up on energy, because I'm taking resisted fast move damage from the Volt Switches, and with 1 shield I should easily be able to get the 2 rock slides or rock blasts here. Coming in with Golem at that point was getting me ahead on energy to the point where I could get the 2 charge moves in order to take out this Electrode. Otherwise I wasn't going to be able to take this one. So well played to my opponent, but Graveler, even though it has Rock Throw, just super strong in this meta. So getting into the next game here, we've got Graveler against an Electrode. Now this I have to stay in for because I cannot swap out. This is where I want to see the Graveler or the Electrode, because my Lantern cannot deal with it. So I remember, once again, that Graveler will win the 2 shields against Electrode unless they bait successfully, which most actually haven't. So I am going to use a Rock Blast here to try and force a shield off the opponent. They think that they can win this matchup, in which they can't. I am not going to let this go. I will go down 2 shields in order to make sure that this Electrode does not see the rest of my team, because I don't really have a good safe way to deal with it, because I'm not running Galvantula. So my opponent safe swaps in Golem. I'm going to do exactly what I normally do in this situation and just come in and bring in my Lantern to farm all the way down. Now, because I have no shields, I do have to take the Stone Edge, and that hurts a lot, but am I going to be able to farm down before the Golem gets to? Nope, I'm not going to be able to farm down. So that means that it's all on the back of Electrode and Graveler. I'm going to have my Graveler come in, do a more Rock Throw, and then see what my opponent decides to do from here. I'm hopefully going to be able to take him out, but they come in with their Graveler here. And actually, because they have only 1 shield left, I'm going to try to take it off of them right now. And by doing this, it's going to allow my Electrode, hopefully, to land an Energy Ball somewhere against this Graveler. Now, they decide to call the bait, but I do end up getting the shield, and because we CMP, that's massive. If we hadn't CMP'd, they could have farmed down and easily Stone Edged my my Electrode, but now because of that, I should be able to safely get the 2 energy balls. I'm going to overfarm by just a bit here by trying to remember the counts of the Golem, or Graveler. I keep mixing them up. Energy Ball is going to be taking out the Graveler, and then I'm going to be able to get to a move here against this Electrode, and that's going to take them out, and that's going to be a good game. GG's to my opponent. These Electric Cup games, while primitive in nature, because it's the same 5 Pokemon, these are actually really challenging games that actually make you think, okay, you know, how do I deal with what I think is in the back? So my opponent safe swaps in Togedemaru. Again, they have no real response, or no real way for the Galvantula to deal with a Golem, so they safe swap out, which makes a lot of sense. And I don't know... Oh yeah, I remember this game. My opponent completely clowns me in this game. They go for a Wild Charge, they land it. Now they're going to go for Fell Stingers, and I shield them. So I'm going to try to farm down. I'm going to go for a Surf here, and they block the Surf, and then I'm going to shield up because I need to maintain switch advantage here. And switch advantage doesn't mean anything because my opponent still has a shield, and I remember what they have in the back. They're going to bring in their Galvantula. I'm going to do what I normally do. I'm going to throw my Surfs into the opponent here. And then after I throw the Surfs into the opponent, I'm going to be able to swap into my Electrode and hopefully sweep with what would be typically the best typing in this game. But I come in with the Graveler. The opponent paying a lot of great attention here. Energy Balls my Golem, and that just almost one-shots, and they have an Electrode in the back, and I'm like, oh no. Please tell me that this Electrode is not running Hyper Beam. And they build up to the Hyper Beam, and I know I'm completely screwed, and I'm about to get just blasted. There it is. And I have no way to take care of this thing, so I just got completely clowned by this opponent. They had it. They knew exactly what they were doing, and they just completely destroyed me. Now, I could have Wild Charged there, but I wouldn't have had a way to deal with the Galvantula afterwards, so that was just... My opponent played so well and just completely clowned my poor self there. So once again, catching the good lead. Opponent comes in with a Lantern, and I'm going to counter swap with my Hisuian Electrode. And this is, I mean, you can probably guess the reason why I would do that, because it's the hard counter. I hit the Energy Ball, I tank the Surf, and then I can just farm down. And then even a Wild Charge will do a lot of damage to a Galvantula. So once I finish farming this down, I will still have a bunch of energy with which to use, and I should be able to get a couple Wild Charges off against the Galvantula before they take me out with their Fury Cutter farm down. So here comes the Galvantula. I'm building all the way up to 2 Wild Charges, making sure I'm not taking any unnecessary damage before throwing the first one. And then I'm just going to go back to back. I'm not going to bother doing any extra farm. There's no need. I'd rather be safe and get the moves off rather than risk getting 1 extra Thunder Shock in. But I get both shields, which is huge. And then I'm just going to come in with a Graveler and shield this move, even though it's probably a lunge. I'm not chancing the fact that it could be an Energy Ball. And it's still an Energy Ball. So that's a good shield. And then my opponent comes in with the Electrode. And now I'm like, I don't know. But because they're running Tackle, it's going to take them a while to get to charge moves. So I'm going to be able to safely Stone Edge the opponent here and take them out, and then the Galvantulas are going to come back in and get completely demolished. So my opponent concedes the match there. So, oh, forgot to take out the Q times on that one. Well played to my opponent, of course. This team worked really well day one because everybody was defaulting to the Galvantula, and then they were playing like rocks in the back, so it worked out real well. Now, if the opponent's not playing any rocks whatsoever, typically this team won't do as well. However, whenever I see the Hisuian Electrode, I always play out the 2 shield, the 2-to-1 shields, because I want to make sure that I win this matchup. Again, like I said earlier, we can't let this see the back line. It's actually really bad. And my opponent's not going to bait here, and they're not going to be able to take me out. So I'm going to be able to farm down, but the opponent actually comes in with the Denny instead of getting farmed down, which is actually kind of smart because any extra farm for me would be bad for them. So they clearly knew what was going to happen. But I go for the Stone Edge, and then I immediately come with my Electrode. And I actually don't know if this was the right call or not, but I know that Electrode basically is forcing them to throw an expensive move and play rough. And I don't really want my Lantern to come in on something that's doing neutral damage when I could come in with my Electrode that's always doing resisted damage. So Energy Ball is going to go through, and I will not be able to farm down this today. Unfortunately, they're going to get to another player off and take out my Electrode, but that means I can just come in and farm down with the rocks, and then whatever my opponent has in the back, which they willingly come in with a Galvantula, and they try to catch something on their Electrode, and my opponent just kind of concedes the match there, so not much they could do once the Graveler was going. Hi, sweetheart. Are you awake now? Come on, sweetheart. Okay, so same deal as usual. My opponent safe swapping a Alolan Rock, and she is upsetty. We just woke up from a nap. Opponent's going to come in with their Alolan Rock. They're going to get farmed all the way down by the Lantern as always. And I'm going to throw this energy into the Galvantula when it comes back in. They will be forced to go down a shield, which means now my Electrode can automatically beat whatever rock type is in the back. Electrode easily going to clobber a rock as long as it can get the 2 energy balls, which it only can do in the in the 1 shield. But my opponent actually does a very interesting move here and decides to keep both shields down for their Luxray, which is really smart in my opinion. So I'm going to come in here with my Electrode. My opponent is running Hidden Power Luxray, which you saw in yesterday's video is a dominating force. But theirs isn't shiny, so it's inferior to mine. But it's still a dominating force, and this thing is really... So what I need to do here is I need to basically do as much chip damage to this thing as I possibly can, get shields down, you know, and I want to keep those shields just so I can do as much damage as I can. I'm hoping to get to maybe 3 energy balls here, but now that my opponent is low enough, I feel like I can just come in and farm down with Rock Throw in order to get them out of here, so that is going to be a good game. I don't think my opponent was even running the Ground-type Hidden Power. I don't know, I wasn't paying attention. But again, another Galvantula lead, so we're going to be good here. We're just going to go ahead and force them to throw it. They're going to come in with a Magneton, and I actually don't know what to do here. So I come in with my Lantern hoping that I can try and like farm down. Or maybe throw a Surf and get a shield. My opponent may be really trying to get switch advantage. I know that in the 2 shields, my Lantern should be able to farm down this Magneton. Because I can easily tank a move. My opponent just lets it go, and then they're going to come with their Galvantula, which is a really risky move here because the water damage or water gun damage adds up very quickly against this Galvantula. So living with 1 HP in a dream, oh baby, what's the matter? Able to get the Surf off with just 1 HP. The opponent's going to Fury Cutter down. Graveler's going to come in. Their Graveler's going to come in. And now what I need to do is try and force a shield off of them. So like we said earlier, I can get to 2 energy balls with my Electrode. And they're forced to shield because if they don't, they basically get rock thrown down. And now I'm going to be able to get these energy balls off the opponent. I have 2 shields. They only have 1 shield. This is a pretty easy cut and dry win, thankfully, because of how quickly the Electrode can charge up these moves. Oh, sweetheart. Somebody's upset. Opponent saves their shield instead for their Galvantula, so I'm going to now build up to double Wild Charge and just let those rip instead. Wild Charge is going to do more than plenty of damage to take out my opponent here, and I've got back-to-back moves to go for and a shield, so there was no way I could possibly have lost that at that point. But that's going to be well played to my opponent. Good game. Alright, going into this next one, another super interesting lead here with Lantern. I lose this one, so I'm safe swapping into my own Lantern. I safe swap into the Mirror here because it'll draw out the Electrode, which is probably the hardest answer to my own Electrode, to be honest. So by drawing out a potential counter, there's their Electrode. So my opponent actually coming in with a Electrode here, I don't think they can actually rest switch from me even with the chip damage without forcing shields. So going for some water guns in between those volt switches just for the extra fast move energy and damage. My opponent's going to be forced to shield this up, and honestly I'm going to let this go because I'm up a shield, but I could, if I wanted to, I could have definitely shielded and potentially gotten switch here, but I don't really know if it was as important because they have a Lantern in the lead. I would like to get my Electrode aligned to it, but, you know, at what cost, right? I got a shield advantage. I feel like that the Rock Throw damage from Alolan Graveler is going to be more than sufficient. So I'm going to instant swap in against them with my Lantern, and they are going to come in with the Galvantula. So getting switch would have been the correct thing to do here. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do that. But now all I can hope is that maybe, just maybe, with a shield, my Graveler will be able to get to a couple of charge moves, maybe farm down the Lantern. Probably not going to happen, but we're going to see how we do in this game here. Oh, don't talk to me, Dad. I'm tired. So they let both shields I am not going to be able to get to the move, unfortunately. I waited. I I should have waited a little bit longer before I threw those charge moves to not drop my defense like that, but so I'm going to be able to farm down the Galvantula, and I'm just really hoping, but Stone Edge is not going to be enough here. And just before I go down, I'm going to throw, just as a Hail Mary attempt to get the Stone Edge out, and it's not quite enough. So my opponent even CMP'd me at that point, so I mean, well played to my opponent. They did everything they needed to do to win that game. I just didn't really see the RPS of the Gal versus Electrode matchups on either side. So they got Togedemaru in the lead, and they have Fell Stinger and they have Wild Charge. So both are resisted, so I'm going to let this first move go. My opponent's going for the Fell Stinger, and I'm not calling this. I have no need to shield resisted damage. I will go for this Rock Blast, however, faking a Stone Edge because I want that damage. I want the shield. My opponent actually shields, and now I'm going to come with Electrode because Electrode does hard wall the Wild Charges. So my opponent's got to go for Fell Stingers here, and honestly, these are going to start heading up. But I'm just going to I'm not going to shield anything here. As far as I'm concerned, if they had a stronger... I mean, this is probably their strongest answer, but it does bring out a Galvantula, so I am going to go for the back-to-back Wild Charges here. And I'm just hoping now that the opponent will maybe drop their last shield to keep their Galvantula alive, potentially. The Togedemaru is basically going to have to be a team effort here for me to take out, but thankfully, with a shield, I should easily be able to farm down the Galvantula, and then Lantern, maybe Lantern in the back? We'll have to see. Togedemaru is like a sneaky good pick in this meta. I was doing a coaching session with a student who was using one, and they were just absolutely slapping with it. So I just don't have one built myself, so I never had the chance to use it, and I said I'm not spending any more dust than I did on the stupid Luxray. So my opponent's going to come in with Minun here, and this is actually really bad for me. But the plus side of it here is that I have a shield and my opponent does not. So I will be able to get the Surf off before they're going to be able to get the 2 charge moves. And I'm going to easily be able to KO them. And then most likely I'm going to be able to farm down the rest. Now, I'd let this go. And the reason why I let this go is because I'm trusting in the damage of my Graveler to take me across the finish line. Plus, the Togedemaru has very little HP left. So they would have to get the 2 moves and they wouldn't be able to do that in the time it would take for Graveler to farm down and or get to this Rock Blast, which we do, and that's going to take out the Togedemaru, and that is going to be a good game, and you are so sleepy. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you so much. This is going to be it for the Electric content. There's really not too many teams you can really go and, like, go nuts over. I just wanted to share my best 2 teams with you guys this week, and then tomorrow is going to be a great league team that I'm really excited about sharing. And then after that, you're going to hear some Ultra League Premier Cup teams, or yeah, Ultra League Premier Cup that are coming up. So anyway, stay tuned, subscribe to the channel if you want to see those things and more. Leave a like and let me know in the comments how your Electric Cup is going, and I'm hoping to catch you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.